This is the RV Advisor Podcast with your host, Tom Alexander. Get all the latest information, trends, advice from experts, stories from the road, and more in the world of recreational vehicles. Now, here's Tom.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the RV Advisor Podcast. My name is Tom Alexander, and today we are joined by the folks from 50 and Fifth Wheeling. It is Kelly and Renee Hayes. Hi, guys. How's everything going?
Great.
Doing wonderful, Tom. Thanks for having us this morning.
Well, it is great to have you on, and I can see we were chatting a little bit before we came on, and I could see you're not in a trailer, you're not in an RV, unless it's just a massive, some kind of new model that I've never heard of. But anyway, where are you now? Where are you located?
We currently are in Port Austin, Michigan, which they call up here the tip of the thumb. Right at the very tip.
Yeah, so you're on the lake, near the lake.
Yes, near the lake. Yeah, we just did a quick trip up here to visit family, and so our camper is back in Georgia at Twin Lakes RV Park. That's our home base. Gotcha.
And so are you, most of the time, you say you're visiting family, most of the time you're in your RV. I mean, is that a full-time thing for the most part, or do you have another brick and mortar location that you call home?
No, for about a year and a half now, we've been living full-time we have a 2019 Keystone Raptor. It's a 421 CK. It's a toy hauler. We actually been living in it full-time year and a half. We sold our house in Texas. I work for General Motors.
Oh.
And about a year and a half ago, I was relocated from Dallas, Fort Worth to Atlanta, Georgia.
I see.
At that time, we said, maybe we'll just, for a short period of time, use our RV while we find a home in the Atlanta area. And what actually happened is we enjoyed the area, the park that we were staying at, and we're enjoying the atmosphere, living out of the RV for about 30 days. And we decided, you know what, let's try this full time.
Wow. So that transition, I've talked to tons of people come on the show, and we've talked about, they all share that one thing. It's that transition from brick and mortar into a much smaller lifestyle. Very different, obviously. What was that transition like? I mean, let me ask you this first. What was the transition like? And then having to part ways with probably a lot of things you had to decide, we'll keep this, we won't keep that.
Yeah, it was Christmas of Christmas of 2018.
Yeah.
We hauled the camper to Georgia for Kelly to live in it, like you said. And so once we made that decision, then I went home and began the process of downsizing. So Facebook Marketplace was my friend, and sold pretty much all the big stuff, all the furniture, a lot of his tools and things in the garage. And then the movers moved what was left, which is a lot of all that little stuff. And so we filled a 10 by 30 storage unit in Cumming. And then I spent 4 months downsizing and continuing to donate and sell and give away that stuff. So it was a process, but at first there were a few things I regretted getting rid of, but and we do have like some memorable stuff that's my kids, our kids, like stuff growing up in school, keepsakes that we are storing in Michigan at a relative's home. But other than that, at this point, no regrets at all.
And it was perfect timing for us, and I think that's the most important part. We were just recently empty nesters. We have 2 kids. We've got 2 great kids. Amber, she is back in Texas. She graduated from college. She was working for the Marriott Gaylord. She was there. Our son, he is now going to be a senior at the University of Arkansas. So we have our daughter, Amber, our son, AJ. So it's perfect timing, just her and I. So that's what really worked out for us.
Yes.
He's a Razorback.
He is, absolutely.
Right. So that is, I still live, as you could tell. I'm here at home. I'm in a brick and mortar. My office is like a museum. I have a lot of old things, and just, you can see the old Coke clock on the wall back there and different things. That's an authentic 1958.
Wow.
My dad had a movie theater, so I grew up in the movie theater business. So there's posters and all kinds of crazy stuff in here. And I'd be like, geez, I don't know if that would all fit in the RV. It's like there's just a lot. So I empathize. Well, can't empathize because I haven't done it, but sympathize with your having to decide what goes and what stays. I would imagine after a lifetime of having those kinds of things, it's got to be a little weird, like, okay, here's the out box, here's the keep box, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, Kelly had the 3-car garage full of tools, and
Yeah.
so it was a lot of stuff. Married 28 years, 2
Wow.
kids. You accumulate a lot.
It is amazing how much you accumulate over the years. And once we made the decision, like she said, I had a lot of tools, equipment, whether it was working on cars or woodworking. And once we realized, we've been very fortunate and blessed working with General Motors. I think we've had 6 different homes, 6 different states, from Michigan to Kansas to Missouri to Tulsa, Oklahoma to Dallas. You do accumulate a lot of that. But we realized by living that RV lifestyle for that 30 days as we were looking for homes, you had so much more time on your hand. You're very free. I didn't have to worry about mowing the lawns or trimming the bushes or taking care of the pool. On the flip side, look how much money we were saving. Everything was kind of included in that monthly fee.
Yeah.
Electricity, water, sewage. And then I realized, you know what? This is so freeing that at this point I've made the decision. I don't need all those tools. I don't want to work on cars. I want to go out, and we are very fortunate to get transferred to Atlanta. We never had it on our radar. But what an amazing place. Outdoor activities, the mountains, the hiking, the biking, the kayaking. I said, you know what? I want to open up a new door, close my old chapter on working on cars, working on woodworking activities, and just enjoy the outdoor life.
Yeah, no, that's terrific. And Atlanta does it, it gives you both. You've got all the great things to do, for people who like outdoor stuff and nature and all that stuff that's around the city. And then if you want to partake of some of the cultural events, sports or concerts or all that kind of stuff, and art or whatever you like, you go into the city. So you got it all. It's pretty cool. We're going to talk a lot more with the folks at 50 and Fifth Wheeling in just a moment. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. You're watching the RV and listening to the RV Advisor podcast. I'm Tom Alexander. Back in a moment.
RV owners, it's no secret that those manufacturers' warranties just don't cut it. Get the peace of mind you deserve and step up to the RV Advisor Extended Warranty Plan. Visit thervadvisor.com or call 833-229-0911. That's 833-229-0911.
We are back on the RV Advisor podcast. My guests are Kelly and Renee Hayes from 50 and Fifth Wheeling. Now, 50 and Fifth Wheeling, that's pretty cool because it's all there in the title. It's there in the name. 50, you're both 50, maybe slightly older than 50.
Yeah.
And although I said before, you guys look amazing. I mean, I always kid around. I look like everybody's grandfather.
No.
And Fifth Wheeling, which is obviously it's a fifth wheel that you're traveling in. So tell us of the origin of the name. Tell us the origin of what you guys do. I mean, you've got well over 7,000 followers, which is pretty darn impressive on Instagram. Tell us a little bit about the background of that.
I mean, pretty much when we lived in Texas for 14 years. And so when we made the move to Atlanta for his job, we told everyone that we were going to do tiny living. And so all our family and friends were like, what? You're doing what? You got to, make sure you're posting this. We want to follow along. And so that was, I had an Instagram account, but really hadn't done anything with it. So then I kind of brainstormed, what's a good name? And thus came 50 and fifth wheeling. And then we even had a little logo made where we kind of went with the 50 Chevy truck kind of look and an older fifth wheel as part of our logo. But
so I'm looking at it right now. It's
yeah, so
yeah.
that started me just posting on Instagram originally for family and friends to follow along.
Mm-hmm.
But then it became, there's just this whole group of people out there that's just a great culture, and everybody's very open as to sharing ideas, or if people have questions or struggles, and so it just became much bigger than we expected, and we're just loving it. Working, with companies. We're currently the Keystone ambassadors this year, and just sharing our story, living full time in our fifth wheel. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. These things do tend to grow sort of organically. Like a lot of folks that have similar sites and followings and those kinds of things. Didn't really start out that way. It started out as just a whim, hey, let's put stuff up on either Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever or their own site. And then suddenly they discover that, it's like, wow, we are getting a lot of views here. What the heck's going on, And it sounds a little bit like that's sort of what happened, with you guys. And it's pretty cool. So how often do you post? How often do you put stuff up?
I try to post daily, something that we're doing every day, and automatically post to Instagram and Facebook at the same time. So we're out on Instagram, Facebook, and then when we do videos or anything live, then we try to post that to YouTube also.
I see. So you have a YouTube presence as well. That's great.
A small one. We need to work a little more on building that up, but there's a few things out there.
Yeah. It really is a kind of a fun thing to look and follow. You there's a sort of a connection that people will make with, they almost live, some of the people, maybe they're older folks or whatever, and they almost live vicariously through folks like yourselves. It's sort of like, okay, we're going to go out and, we're not going to actually physically do it, but, here we are. We'll follow the Hayes family and see what's going on. Obviously, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. We actually have a interesting story on that. One day we were in our campground walking, and this woman comes forward and she said, "Kelly and Renee, 50 and fifth wheeling?" And we're like, yeah. And she's like, "I'm your stalker." No, just kidding. I'm a follower. But come to find out, her and her husband are empty nesters, and they thought about doing the same thing and then actually did it. And they said that they had been following us and we were their inspiration. And so they actually now have the campsite next to us, and they're just a great couple. And we
wow, that's terrific. It's changing lives. That's pretty. How many people could say that? That's pretty darn cool. That's
yeah.
Cool. Obviously we're living in a real challenging time right now, and 2020 has been eventful to say the least. But we're all trying to make our way, and we're all of us are having to adjust in similar ways and in different ways. And I would imagine that as RVers, full-time RVers, there are some advantages that you have, maybe that some brick and mortar folks may not have, and maybe vice versa, having to sort of navigate, this time. So can you share a little bit about how things have sort of maybe shifted a little bit for you guys? Have you any takeaways, anything that has been somewhat unexpected?
Our kids came and stayed with us actually in the beginning when it was kind of, questionable how things were going to go.
Yeah.
And I will say we have a fifth wheel toy hauler, as Kelly mentioned earlier. So the back end has 2 queen size beds. And so we had 4 adults and my daughter's golden retriever all living in our camper together for a month and a half. And it just worked out great where the camper was plenty big enough, plus the park and all its amenities, the fishing, and there's trails to hike. And so it worked out. And I mean, I would say one maybe downside could be, we were kind of stockpiling a little bit of food, and you have less room in a camper per se. But again, in that garage area, we had some, boxes of extra food, and so that was fine. And I just think what we've found too is the RV community, and even just being in a campground. I mean, it just seems sometimes you live in subdivisions and you hardly get to know your neighbors, where it seems in a campground, it's just everybody comes together, helping everybody, and it's just a different atmosphere. And so everybody was there for each other if anybody needed anything, and so it's worked out great.
It is indeed a community. I mean, I almost every person I've spoken with on this podcast, and we've been doing it for we're closing in on a year now that we've been doing it. The one word that keeps coming up is community. And it's true. It just seems like everybody that it is indeed a community. I mean, you're right. We've lived in our neighborhood for close to 25 years. And yeah, we certainly know some people, but we don't know. There's a few neighbors that we like. It's a hi, how are you? But that's about the extent of it. But I know that in the RV community, in the RV world, it is very much like a family. It's very close knit, and that transition had to be kind of interesting for you.
And that's the part that I really enjoy, getting around every night when I was working 8 to 5 at an office building, coming home at night, driving around the park, seeing the new RVs that were coming in that night, getting to know them, walk around, understanding their background, their experience, and just sharing best practices and what they have learned throughout their travels throughout the country. So that's the part that I'm really fascinated with. I just enjoy going around, talking, getting to know everybody.
And we've met some interesting people. We've met musicians and Elvis impersonator, a Prince and Michael Jackson impersonator.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Traveling nurses. I mean, it's lots of very interesting people that you meet.
Yeah. So how long do you plan on staying in Michigan, and then when are you heading back to Georgia?
So we'll probably head back to Michigan probably, and we're going to play it really day to day, week to week, obviously with this pandemic going on.
Sure.
Fortunately, with my job, I'm able to kind of work remotely.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to take some time here and just kind of enjoy the family while we can during these uncertain times. So I don't know if we have a set time to get back to Georgia anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, that's a good feeling in a way, that you don't have, the clock's not necessarily ticking. You can kind of just take your time and I'm reminded of my uncle and aunt, my father's oldest brother and his wife, and they would always travel to Europe. They would go to Europe and they would always buy a one-way ticket. Really? And I'd say, wow, the concept of a one-way ticket in my life seems like just completely foreign. And they would buy a one-way ticket. When are you coming back? When we get tired of it. Now they were retired, of course, but it's just sort of like that was the idea. You just, it's kind of a nice feeling to not feel, particularly, obviously so many of us are working from home now, mm-hmm. and can have the good fortune of being able to work remotely, which is, pretty nice. A lot of people don't, of course, but so you don't have to be in the office at 8 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yeah, he used to have to. His original office is in Alpharetta, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of a little different, where a lot of full-timers, their job is full-time remote, so they can travel, where we were, full-timers, but had a home base, and then just would travel on weekends or vacations and holidays with the camper.
Yeah.
And then in 2 years, he's looking to retire, and then we'll be half the year in Michigan, and then the winter months we'll travel full time in the camper around the country.
Gotcha. Now, do you tend to stay sort of a little more south in the winter, just due to the weather conditions, and do you find that you prefer staying a little south of the snow belt, so to speak?
Yes.
That's our ultimate goal, is enjoy the spring, summer, early fall in Michigan, which is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the year travel down south where you're at, Florida,
Right.
over to Arizona where my sister lives, and through
Uh-huh.
the kind of southern area.
Gotcha. Well, if you find yourselves in South Florida sometime, let us know. We always like meeting our guests in person and maybe doing a follow-up video chat or a podcast. And it's always nice to connect with people we meet on the show. So listen, thank you so much both for coming on. Let the folks know one more time where they can find you, the best place to find you online.
Yeah, it's 50 and Fifth Wheeling on Instagram or Facebook, and also out on YouTube. And so we love if people have questions or looking to get into it, or they currently have a camper. Kelly's really handy. If they have any kind of maintenance type questions, just feel free to direct message us.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much, Kelly and Renee Hayes. We really, really appreciate your time. Safe travels as always, and stay safe in general. And thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
Tom.
you.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. This is the RV Advisor Podcast. I'm Tom Alexander. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. So long, everybody.